name is Kat. Some of you are going to know that because this is part of my Vlogmas, and some of you are hopefully watching Vlogmas as I'm posting them. I know I'm not the most consistent with posting them, and I'm sorry about that one. But this is my first year anyway. But there are some of you who may not know this because this is going to be my first official video in an attempt to join the broader CosTube when it comes to historical clothing. So I personally really find 1920s styling really cool and like funky. I feel like funky is not really the right word, but I think it's really cool. It looks genuinely really comfortable. And I do also really like Edwardian and 19-teens fashion, but I feel like 1920s is a lot easier to do when you're not that confident in your sewing skills. So a little bit about my sewing background before we get into some more stuff. I'm hoping this video is going to be around 20 minutes, so if that's not your jam, you know, to listen to me talking about sewing and historical sewing for like 20 minutes, feel free to skip this one. I love you anyway. So I grew up doing the SEA, so if you know, you know. If you don't know, it is the Society for Creative Anachronism, and it is a medieval historical reenactment group, and the general time frame is fall of the Roman Empire to 1650. I grew up doing it with my parents, and my parents personally chose like 800s Vikings, and my dad was an 800s Viking and my mom was an 800s Celt. So I wound up making a lot of Norse apron dresses. If I ever have to make another apron dress, I will cry. And I'm very, I know that probably sounds really silly to anyone who knows anything about 1920s style, because you're probably like, wait a second, lots of that sort of very rectangular, and like there's even the tabard dresses, which are very, ow, I just bit my cheek. Which are very similar to the aprons over the chemise. So basically a lot of my sewing is very straight lines, very unstructured garments. So I feel a little bit more comfortable with trying to do some historical, more modern historical garment and costume making with the 1920s rather than Edwardian or 19-teens, because it doesn't require an exceedingly strict foundation corset. Well, corsets were still common in the 20s. They were much more of a girdle type garment. They were starting to move towards girdle type garments. I am not the best at explaining these things. This will probably be one of the only Yule vlogs, Vlogmas, there we are, one of the only Vlogmas videos that has like actually helpful links in the bottom of it, because I'm going to try and link to as many places as I can that I've personally found helpful in case you are coming to this video because you also want to make 1920s clothing, because it is ridiculously cute. So yeah, I know a lot of basic sewing. I know how to put buttons in, I know how to do French seams, felled seams. I am not a big fan of doing hand stitching, but I will do it for finishing, much like Angela Clayton. And much unlike Bernadette Banner, who does like everything by hand. I wish I had the patience for that, but I knit and I crochet too much to really want to do a bunch of hand stitching. I think of sewing as being a much quicker craft because you are not having to create the fabric yourself. You are putting the fabric together into the shape of the pieces, whereas when you are knitting or crocheting, you are actively creating the fabric. So, I have on my laptop here, as long as everything will cooperate, a selection of PDFs that I bought from an Etsy store called Vintage Patterns, or it might be Vintage Patterns. They do also have she does also have a website. She is a wonderful and amazing person, and she was very prompt with everything. And I only bought these PDFs because of the fact that I wanted the restored version, and I wanted them all in one neat little packet, you know? So one of the, excuse me, this is Toothless. I don't know if you can quite see him, but he's one of the cats. So one of the more commonly seen around, sort of, pardon me while I put my brain together. One of the more common when you see like, scans or pictures of, like, I believe they're magazine and newspaper clippings that show you how to create, like, would have shown you as a person in the 20s how to create a dress or a hat for yourself. A lot of them were from this gal called Ruth Weiss Spears. And I was finding a whole bunch of her different bits all over the place, and I was realizing that some of them didn't have like the full picture, like they were like a 2-page piece and didn't have the second page with the actual instructions on it or the measurements. Some of them were just too blurry to read when you were just finding them on Google Images or Pinterest or whatever. So I just found an Etsy shop that was selling, you know, retouched scans of these things so I could have them as PDFs on my laptop. So I have quite a bit of various bits here, and so much like what I would do if I was doing an earlier period where we had that more structured corset garment or stays or pair of bodies, depending on how far earlier I was going. I'm going to try and start from the inside out. Currently, my sewing machine is on the fritz, so this project probably won't see true fruition until sometime in the beginning of next year, 2021. But I thought that I would be able to make the bra, which is very much like a bralette these days, which has been featured on videos by the long-haired flapper. She was the gal that I learned about this particular bra pattern from. And then I watched another video from another gal, who I will hopefully be able to put on screen here. And then I was able to find, I believe, the Ruth Weiss Spears little scan of it on Pinterest. The original concept for this project was to create a capsule wardrobe, as if, rather than I having been born in 1996, if I had been born in 1896, so that rather than the current year being 2020 and the absolutely magical shit show that it is, it was 1920, which admittedly may have been just as bad, considering the, you know, calm down from the First World War and the Spanish flu, especially in the area that I am in. A part of the reason why I had the idea to do this was because I do have a lot of really nice architecture for really good photo backdrop staging. I live in St. Augustine, Florida, so I have like Flagler College, Villa Zoreda, the Leitner Museum, Casa Monica, blah blah blah, all of that. So, admittedly, I could do significantly older outfits and still have very good staging. That's the word, Catherine. But I do personally really like 20s, and as I mentioned earlier, I am not confident enough in my sewing skills to make a corset or even a pair of stays at this moment. And I don't have access to any of those really super nice books that some of our favorite historical costumers use, because those books are very obviously well worth it from how much use they get out of them, and like looking at what I can of them online, they're very well worth it, but they are also a pretty penny. So yeah, hopefully wow, squirrel brain. I was trying to say that the bra I thought I could do by hand. So I have some fabric for it, I have some ribbon, and I have some hook and eyes. So probably after, that'll probably be one of the first, well, that will be the first video for this series in the upcoming year, but that will probably be one of the first videos in January for the channel. So I plan on essentially making an entire wardrobe out of this. So I'm going to start with a bra and then a pair of knickers. So this is going to probably wind up being a little bit later in the decade, since I know that combinations and slips were still a little bit more popular in the early decade, just like slightly higher waists were still more popular in the earlier decades. But if you look at pictures of girls, of actual girls wearing it, like street snaps, and like street photography from the time, you'll notice that like girls put the waist of their dresses, they put their little belts and sashes wherever they thought looked best. So there's that. So, well, I'm going to basically, right now what I have planned is a bra, some knickers, a slip, a camisole skirt or two, and then I need to find a nice blouse pattern. That's something I am really struggling to find in my size because I have a 46-inch bust. And most of the like still existing patterns and even the scanned patterns like from Mrs. Depew, they're somewhere between 34 and 38-inch busts. And as I mentioned, my sewing skills are still on the decently basic level. I do know how to do like curve seams and stuff. I don't really know how to do grading particularly well. I know how to do pattern drafting, but I don't know how to do grading. And I feel like that's one of those things that like most people would consider a transferable skill. Like if you can make a pattern for yourself, why can't you take a pattern and make it your size? But like every time I've looked into it, it has just like become word soup in my brain, and I'm just like, what? And I'm that meme, you know the one. So that, and then I found an ad from a delineator magazine, and I found out about the delineator magazines from Roxanne Richardson from Rocks Dits, which is another YouTuber on here who does historical knitting patterns to just less to wear them and more to see what the construction was like and what historic yarns were like. It's very interesting and I really like it. But she talks about the Delineator magazine, which I believe was a Butterick publication in order to sell their patterns, and it was a monthly women's magazine. And I cannot recall if it was January 20 or January 21. I feel like it was January 1921. I found an ad for this sweater called the Imogen sweater, and it's a obviously long line sweater, and it's shown in this really lovely pastel blue and white. But it has this really nice deep V and a shawl collar. Because it's a drawing, they don't show the back of it, so I don't know if it's a sailor collar or if it's a rounded shawl collar throughout. And I really, really want to make that. So that'll probably be the only knitted or large knitted project for this particular project that happens in 2021, purely because I have quite a few larger knitted projects for my modern day wardrobe planned. But we're gonna work from closest to my skin outward, and hopefully by my birthday we'll have a full outfit. It may wind up being more of a winter full outfit because the fabrics I have for my camel toe skirts are both wool, but I think I might be able to get something out of this vaguely swooshy rayon and make a nice summer dress, or I might be able to find some linen as well. My thrift store is very good. You may have seen a few videos about how good my thrift store is this Vlogmas. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope that if you are interested in the 20s styling, that you come along with this, and that if eventually I do decide to eat the frog and actually make a corset, that you're here for that too. Bye bye!